And there we are. According to the Mail Guardian, a few days ago, U.S. Congress receives bill to review South Africa relations following politically motivated ICJ case. Of course, it's politically motivated. It's against the politics of Zionist genocide. A bill been submitted to the United States Congress calling for a full review of the country's bilateral relationship with South Africa following the International Court of Justice ruling that found it plausible that Israel has committed acts of genocide against Gaza. The bipartisan bill, which was introduced by U.S. Republican Congressman John James and Democratic Party Congressman Jared Moskowitz, this week could threaten South Africa's prospects to benefit from the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Man, shout out to me and Jared Ware, man. We rehabilitating this name, man. The bill will still need to be discussed and passed by Congress. So what is are you clear on what is without me reading through the whole thing here, but
it's essentially,
what is their claim about political motivation other than they disagree with what's happening to Palestinians?
That's basically what it is. They're basically saying that like the case had no merit and therefore South Africa is aligning with the terrorists.
Oh, wait, look at this line here. Following Hamas's unprovoked and unprecedented horrendous attack on Israel, where Hamas terrorists killed and kidnapped hundreds of Israelis, members of the South African government and leaders of the ANC have delivered a variety of anti-Semitic and anti-Israel related statements and actions. That's this. Wow. So that's
the whole chest, the whole like
unprovoked and unprecedented, maybe unprovoked. And then because of that unprovoked behavior by Hamas, South Africa just said, you know what? If Hamas is getting it in, I'm going to go ahead and jump in with my anti-Semitism. That's their claim.
Right.
So the world was just waiting.
It is. It really, man. I mean, it really is.
And do you think the political motivation could include Israel's support of apartheid?
I mean, maybe. What I like and really appreciate about all this is that South Africa's response was to send another letter to the ICJ. Like, did y'all see what just happened in Rafah?
Right. While they over here screaming anti-Semitism, did you see what they just did again?
Right. So it literally just, they were like, whatever, which is actually what needs to happen. Like it needs to be consistently a response of whatever to this nonsense. Like whenever they come with their foolishness about whatever nonsense they starting to line up with, it's because it's always nonsense. It's always this big time imperialist plan of how they are going to do something else somewhere else that's not going to be beneficial to the self-determination of that particular country and why they're right to do it. You know, the U.S. is always right, apparently. And anybody who has the temerity to actually step up and say, okay, we're not going to align with this, that's going to be the response. And I also think, and I could be, guessing wrong, there has to be a small part of contingent within the U.S. government that's like, y'all know if this happens, we're in trouble, right? like y'all know if this works, if this actually goes through and it is found to be genocide, and in the international courts, Israel it's said out loud, the next place to go is who helped them. Like you can't talk about what Israel is doing and not address the fact that they're not making weapons in Israel. They're not making bullets in Israel. They're not making bombs in Israel. All of that stuff is going into the country and getting there, right? And it's coming from these Western powers.
I can't believe I'm remembering this. This must be like, this is crazy. But I just got sent this. Oh, wait a second. To your point about who's paying for this, you've probably seen this. I'm sure I'm late to this, but I just thought this was pretty well done here. Check this out.
We get all this sandwich stuff for the kids' lunch. They don't like turkey anymore.
Yeah, I know.
What about the bananas?
Yeah, I got them too. But, honey,
What?
you're gonna have to put those eggs back.
They don't like eggs anymore?
No, they like eggs, but we have to set that $7 aside for killing Palestinians.
What? I mean, don't we give Israel $4 billion a year anyways?
Yeah, and now we're giving them another $14 billion. Do you know how much that is per American taxpayer?
No.
It's like $85 per person. Apparently, it's costing us a lot of money to drop bombs on Gaza.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Don't they get universal health care too?
Yeah, they do. We're paying for that too, probably. Might as well put the bananas back.
Why the do we have to pay for all of this?
Don't cuss at me.
We get all this sandwich stuff for the kids' lunch.
I had not seen that.
I thought I was like, wow.
I had not seen that. No, I had not. And I was taking a sip when it first started because I was like, what is this? I almost choked. That was
Yeah,
good. That was well done.
very well
That was
done.
well done. Well done.
You got to save
There's
money
also-
for their health care and killing Palestinians.
There's an Irish comedian who does like these little. I should maybe I'll try and find one while we're on. And he so like he'll show up and he has on like his blue shirt and he goes to the US and Britain and he's like, there's this guy and he's attacking me and I need your help. And so and it's him playing all these roles. So it's him as Ukraine and he's talking to the US and the UK and they're like, we must help you. We can't let you do this by yourself. And then he comes back in a green shirt and he's like, there's this guy and he's attacking me. They're killing all the people and taking all our stuff. And they're like, you're the terrorist. You're the bad guy. It is the funniest rendition of like what actually happened. Hysterical. But he does a good job too. I should try and find it because I follow all his little things, but it's the propaganda, process as it's been happening with. I've never seen anything be so clear. Like if you look, like it does not take long to find a real story about what's happening in Gaza and in West Bank. Like it literally doesn't, it takes a second because everyone there is sharing, right? And sharing to a point that it's like painful to watch, right? Every time. And I force myself to watch it because I feel like it needs to be seen, right? Like the Palestinians in Gaza are doing everything they can to really share with the world what's happening, right? And so I feel obligated to like watch it. And then somebody tells me about some nonsense that was said on CNN or MSNBC or whatever. And I really like wonder, do they just think people are stupid? Or are they just banking that those of us who pay attention, that it'll never spread far enough for more people to actually know what's happening? Like I'm curious on the mainstream end, like what is the plan, right? Like is it just to keep on like faking and pretending, or you know what I mean? Like I wonder all the time, like, do y'all have a plan? Like what happens when more people really start to understand what's going on?
Yeah, I go back and forth on how effective I think the propaganda and the response to it is. I think so. I just always just default back to we have to be mindful that whatever progress we think we're making, we will have to fight and double down to maintain and expand, because they're going to constantly be uh, enhancing or looking to enhance their ability to just drop these sort of narrative shifting headlines and uh, those sort of aggressive, well, just like we saw in what you had us read here, unprovoked, unprecedented terrorists. I mean, it just, they're going to continue to try to make it easy for people to just start there. I mean, even again on my own Hickory Ridge Village board, that was the response. You know, I feel bad for the Palestinians, but Hamas started this on October 7th, and we can't. I don't. Why should we politicize the board farther and our community farther by saying, making a statement in defense? And again, I don't think I could write a softer, more apolitical, liberal statement of we just stop the. I didn't even use genocide. Just stop the killing. Just stop something. I don't even forget whatever. It was so weak. And the response, it was immediate and aggressive in a very, for our form of communication, long email that was supposed to garner a certain, create that reaction of, oh, my bad. So yeah, that's what I think. I mean, they're struggling to maintain that. And we've seen it from the forced removal of what, from the perspective of those of us around here, are the most, again, liberally soft political academic presidents of Ivy League universities. I mean, people saying we're withholding our hundreds of millions of dollars. We're not, if you don't fall back, I mean, and they're panicking. They're like, no, you can't be on Harvard's campus talking about Palestinians or people. The president of Morgan State University sent out a communique to the university reminding students of well, I don't know if illegal is the right word, but the against university regulations to have an unsanctioned public gathering that criticizes the university. And this was done immediately after students gathered without getting permission to say Morgan stopped supporting Israel. And then I just think I saw, what was it, UC Irvine? Somebody just divested. They won some sort of, I think the students and faculty provoked the university. I'll have to double check, and the chat probably knows. But but Morgan is saying, no, we're not even, you can't even gather and have that conversation if it's going to lead to being critical of Morgan's policies. So there's, I mean,
that's wild. And so in my research, I've fallen down another rabbit hole, and is it Denzel that I need to blame? It's one of Geechee's people who asked me a question, and so I started looking, because that's, when somebody asks me for something, I always feel like I should at least try to find something. Okay, UC Davis, thank you. And so I fell down this rabbit hole of Israel and private organizations and state businesses and these connections that I don't think I even understood. Kind of like when Ricky threw me down that rabbit hole with the military and the colleges. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on? And so I fell down this rabbit hole, and I found out that like Syracuse has like a whole exchange program. And I was like what where did this come from? Like, how long has this been happening? And so That's about to be my new rabbit hole because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more happening that because of whatever circumstance in the world, we've never been. They really do lead to spreadsheets. It's so out of control. Um, that no one understood. Like, it just never occurred to me, right? Like, it never occurred to me that these things are so intricately like entwined. Like, there's really a lot happening behind the scenes. But it makes sense. Like, once you understand where the money is coming from and going, right? And it always follow the money. And then it makes sense, like, why it's such a problem to say divest from Israel, right? And then you understand why all these universities are not allowing their professors to speak. Those things all start to make a lot more sense when you realize that, it's all part of this capitalist system where the people who are making money only care about making more money, and they don't really care how many tens of thousands of people die as they are on their pursuit to make money. Like, they're totally uninterested in how that all plays out. They just don't care. It's crazy.
When you mentioned the free speech thing, you know what I just learned this weekend? In the state of Maryland, threatening violence against someone is protected by free speech.
Interesting.
Who knew? I said, wow, that's deep. I said, that's deep.
That is very deep.
I would not have thought that was the case, but still learning. Now apparently there are limits. I don't know where their line is.
Where the line
obviously
is. What's a threat versus what's free speech?
And I think it's more connected to and I don't really know, but I think the obvious the line is at action.
Yeah.
But basically, I'll admit I was a little surprised to hear that. Yeah. So, but what is not protected apparently by free speech is saying not to enact violence.
Right.
Which I think is very interesting. So at least here in the state of Maryland, I don't know what the rules throughout the 50 are or whatever, but it's you can threaten violence, but you cannot say stop the violence against Palestinians.
Right. Don't forget that last part. And a lot of times when like I watch and y'all are having and there are conversations on BPM about this, and in the chat we're talking about, because you bring it up how like at your daughter's schools they don't talk about it, right? So they also don't talk about it at my school, right? Like it's not a conversation. And in fact, what I learned is the ADL sent out lesson plans to districts to fight anti-Semitism. And the lesson plans are wild. It's literally like this world where only people who identify as Jewish are in danger. And that has to be the thing that's focused on and protected and, make sure we don't do this thing. And I remember looking at it and being like, Lord, help me. Please don't tell me I have to do anything with this because I might lose my job. Like, this is not going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to do this. And so, but they sent, it was like a national thing that they did. They just sent out links and like a whole, yeah. Yeah.
The anti-bias curriculum.
So wild.
And look at all the diversity. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, schedule it, or of course you could buy it
Buy online.
at the
Yep.
elementary school levels.
Right. And you see when
Revised
they revise it.
2023. Yeah. October 8th specifically.
But the whole thing, when I read through what they sent to the district, was really like, be cautious not to engage your own biases, and be cautious to be aware that not everybody understands the truth. And I was like, well, that okay. Like, I was like, no, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay. So,
Oh, we're really going to explore identity, bias, and discrimination, a word?
Yep.
And how systems of power control to work and oppress marginalized groups? Word?
Yep. But only as it relates to making sure that you are not anti-Semitic. There is, I went through the whole thing because I was curious, and I knew what I was going to find. But as you know, I'm a person who likes to read stuff and to make sure that, like, it doesn't happen, like, I don't speak out of turn. Like, I want to make sure I always understand what's happening. And so when I read through it, I did the search, like, are they going to say anything about Muslims or, Islamophobia or?
Well, so far I haven't seen, I'm sure you have to pay for it and download everything, but I haven't seen anything. I'm not even seeing any reference to, oh, here we go. There we go. Eradicate anti-Semitism, racism, heterosexism, and all forms of bigotry. Not anti-Arabism or
Islamophobia.
If we're naming specifics and Islamophobia and all of that, we're not doing all of that.
No, we're not doing that. Somebody asked in the chat that they thought it was Jill Stein. We thought it was going to be Jill Stein live too, but I don't look.
Yeah, we had, and yeah, she did,
it was
in fact,
confirmed and everything.
Yep,
But look, we move on. The show must go.
The run sheet stays full. So
so I dropped in the chat the comedian. I found it.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Here, guys, I'm trying to fight off this guy who broke into my house and is trying to take it over. Oh my God, you poor thing. What do you need? Weapons? Cash? Really? Of course. What he's done is simply wrong. We stand with you and will do whatever it takes to support you in your courageous and just fight to repel the invader. Thank you. Guys, I'm trying to fight off this guy who broke into my house, expelled me from it, and locked me in the shed. You're doing what? That is barbaric. I want you to condemn yourself. What? I don't think you heard me right. Oh, we heard you all right, you maniac. What you've done is simply wrong. We stand with the guy who took over your house and locked you in the shed, and will do whatever it takes to support him in his courageous and just fight to blow the shed up.
Listen.
And if I'm honest, as funny as that was, shed is too polite.
Right.
Shed is almost an upgrade.
Right.
Given, but yeah, locked you in a cell, in a cage out back. But yeah, that's it's the logic is and especially if I understood correctly, this person is Irish.
Yes.
Who might also have some understanding of all this colonial invasion and takeover.
Right.
It's not really that complicated. That's why, as Dr. King is often ignored in saying, they got to give up the land if this is really going to get resolved.
Right. And there's going to be no way around it. There is no way around it.
It's not complicated. Is if you are holding enslaved people, you have to let them go. If you are, imprisoning someone and you want to repair this relationship, you got to let them out. And if you are occupying and colonizing, you got to give up the land. It's just I mean, it's just not. But if you are outside of your mind in pursuit of resources and exploited labor and some sort of self-imposed, reimagined self-concept as deserving of it, then yeah, I mean, okay.
Right. And the conversation I keep having with people is like anything that you have to steal, right? Like we're told all the time, like poor people have to just figure it out, right? They're not allowed to steal things. They're not allowed to do violence to get the things. Like they're not, whatever situation society has created for you that has put you in a position where you feel like you have to do we just got an answer from Jill's campaign. So sorry, I got distracted.
Oh, okay.
That puts you in a position to do something that's quote unquote not legal, right? That's a problem, right? You go to jail, you're before a judge, all these things, whatever. So I like to explain to people, if you have to decimate an entire population of people and steal all their land, and whoever survives has to leave, if that's what has to happen in order for your thing to be a thing, then your thing shouldn't be a thing. Like, it's really that simple, right? Like, nothing should happen at the cost of oppressing people, period. That's just my simple take on it. So from the jump, the whole idea of Israel is bad from the jump, because from the jump the plan was to remove everybody else who was already there, right? And then they come back with this lie that there was nothing there. There was no people, there were no things, right? So it's always this constant rigmarole of trying to sell people on this idea that, well, they didn't really do anything bad to get there, and it was their land to begin with. And so, that whole circle. But in the end, you're literally committing a genocide in order for your thing to exist. And if that is what has to happen in order for your thing to exist, then your thing shouldn't exist. I just feel like it's real simple. And people like to say, oh, it's complicated. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. They're killing people and stealing their land. It's not complicated. And that you shouldn't do that. And in any other world, like, you can't do that. Like, that's not allowed. So we shouldn't do that.
And then on top of it is this comedian pointed out, you want the people suffering it to do so quietly and without complaint or response.